Hello, this is Goichi. Welcome to the Doorway to the Word. Today's doorway to the Abrahamic covenant and the rise and fall of nations. The history proves it. Well, today I'm going to talk about something great, something that you will be fascinated, you will be surprised, you will be so encouraged. Well, do you want to be blessed or do you want to be a blessing to people? Today's doorway to the word, will show you one of the ways that God blesses, and He will make you into blessing to people around you. And this one, we're going to talk about covenant that God established with Abraham. I call it Abrahamic covenant 4,000 years ago. And this blessing through this covenant will make you so glad you know Jesus. And also, most importantly, this covenant will talk about the relationship, our relationship with Jews, the Israel. You see, currently there was lots of things going on there, and spiritually, regarding to Israel and the Jews, exciting things happening. Some of you might know the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, the Islamic country, and the Bahrain, they started this process of normalizing diplomatic relations with Israel. That's amazing, isn't it? These Islamic countries started making peace with Israel. You know, it's something that I believe will change the spiritual atmosphere in the Middle East. Okay, you might set a lot of different agendas behind it, different political peers and political pressures, relations with other countries such as America might be involved, but nevertheless, that something's moving regarding Israel. And with that, I think it is important to have a look at what God sees, how God sees in this relationship of Christians and other people and countries, the organization, government with Israel. Well, God says in the Bible clearly, bless Israel and you'll be blessed. In Psalm 122, I think, it says about pray for Jerusalem, pray peace for Jerusalem. So your kinsman will be living in peace and security. You see, God chose Israel as His chosen people, the chosen nations, years and years and years ago. And He said, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. So we're going to go to look at few points regarding this, such as who is Abraham, who's Jews, why we should bless them, and how this Abrahamic covenant has been working in nations through the histories. You see, when we look at those things in history, that the God's hand in history event, we'll find the faithfulness of God. You see, this God's faithfulness through this promise that He made with Abraham 4,000 years ago has been working through the history of nations up until now, and I believe it will continue. And that's amazing. I hope this will encourage you to believe, have trust in God's faithfulness. You see, 4,000 years ago, He made a promise. How do I know? Well, I know because I read the Bible. That's what it says. And when you look at the history, you can see the evidence. And this great blessing comes through this covenant. It's still in effect. And it's so amazing. I was so excited when I find out. And, I like history. So I study history and I look at the history. I read the books about it. And in the past, I just read it through all those events. I knew all those events, but I just read it through. Wow. But when this insight came, how those countries, the nations, had such different relationship with Israel in different period of time, and how God blessed them, I thought, goodness me, it's amazing. Promise God made 4,000 years ago, He's still keeping it. This alone is trustworthy. I think this alone you can hold on to and say, God, you're faithful. It's amazing. So we're going to have a look at that. But before that, we're going to have a look at who Abraham. What's this Abrahamic covenant? Who's Abraham? And who's the Jews? You know, all those things. We're going to have a look. So this doorway, this time, it's going to be a two-part. I'm hoping to put them in a two-part. And the first part, we're going to have a look at this. Abraham covenant. Who's Abraham? Who's the Jews? The kind of historical background of Jews. And in second part, we're going to look at this, how this covenant has been affecting all those nations and the relationship with Jews. So here you go. Here's the first part. Abrahamic covenant and Jews. Well, what is Abrahamic covenant? It's coming from Genesis 12, verse 1 to 3. It's quite well-known verses, and it's good to read. Well, this is what happened. Abraham met with God. God came to meet him and established the covenant, the promise. And this is how it goes. Genesis 12, verse 1 to 3. God said, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be blessed. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse," says God. "And all people on earth will be blessed through you." I want to put the focus on the second part. That I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, says God. And all people on earth will be blessed through you. This last part, when it said blessed through you, sometimes translate through your name or through your seed. Of course, when you say through your seed, in a singularly, it talks about Jesus. Everybody comes to Jesus and bless Jesus will be blessed. Accept Jesus, you will be blessed into God's family. But also, when it's plural, seeds, it means Jewish people. So in other words, this bit, God is saying in three things. Well, those people who bless you, Abraham, I will bless those people. And those people who curse you, I will curse. And those people, I would like to bless through you. Second, those people who bless Jesus, accept Jesus, I will bless them. And those people who curse Jesus, I will curse. And all people on this earth will be saved through Jesus Christ. Also, that can be translated into, I will bless those who bless your descendants, the Jews, my chosen people. And those people who curse Jews, I will curse. And all people will be blessed through those Jewish nations. Well, so this is the Abrahamic covenant God made 4,000 years ago. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? Simple, amazing. And it is happening. You see? But the question is, who is Abraham? What's so significant about him? Why did God make covenant with him? You might be thinking, goodness me, Abraham must be so special. Well, let's have a look. Who is Abraham? He was known as the father of Jews. You see, Jewish people consider him as the ancestor, the origin of their identity. And that's what the Bible says as well. So, where is he from? Who is he? Abraham the Bible tells us Abraham came from the city called the Ur of Chaldean, which is, there are two theories. The possibly that's very well-known theory is the south of Mesopotamia, the current Iran. Down the south, there's a place called and that's the most popular theory. There's another theory there that the was there in north of Mesopotamia, which is current southern Turkey. Well, different theories, different explanations. So I leave that to you. You know, you can have a look on the internet, people's theories, and they're both very feasible, interesting. But Bible only say from Chaldeans. So he wasn't from the land of Palestine that the current Israel is. He was from Iran. He was those people, the Chaldean. Mind you, the Chaldean was known to be quite fierce, the warrior type society. You know, the people who is quite fighting kind of warrior society type things, you know. But anyway, so Abraham was from there, and God told his father to move out of this place, and Abraham took over. So he was from those people, and Bible doesn't say anything more than that. So according to Bible, Abraham was just like ordinary people, like me and you. It doesn't say, you know, he had a significant superpower or great charisma. Nothing like that. He was just a man from Chaldea. God told him, and he was obedient. So that's Abraham. Isn't it interesting? See, he was an ordinary person chosen by God for God's purpose. It could be you, you know. God one day call you out for something, for his purpose. And that might result in such a great thing. Isn't it encouraging? See, Abraham, if you are interested in, please study more, study deep. Walk through this door, go further, and let me know what you find out. That'd be great. So, that's Abraham. So, from him, the Jewish people came out. Descendants of Abraham, they are known. And here, when you when you read in the Bible, you come across something a little confusing. These descendants of Abraham, in the Bible, they were called in several terms, such as Jews, Israelites, and Hebrews. The first one comes up in Hebrews. And then at this point, I think a lot of people get confused when you're reading. And they said, yeah, Abraham, the Hebrews, blah, blah, blah. And then some other books, a little later, suddenly said, Israelite. Oh, are they same people? What's the difference? And when you go through, you're talking about Jews? What? Israelites? Jews? Him? Oh, people get confused. What is going on here? Well, I can clarify. Hebrews, Israelites, and Jews, they're all talking about the same people from different era. Great example I show you. I'm currently living in Wales. Welsh people, as people know them as Welsh people, and they are known as Welsh. But also they're British. And Welsh people, actually, they call themselves Cymry. British, Welsh, Cymry. Whoa. Sounds similar? Familiar? Hebrews, Israelites, Jews. British, Welsh, Cymry. You see, what's happening for the Welsh people? They're British. In the ancient time, they're called Britons. And what happened was, when the Saxons came, and these Britons, the original Welsh people, were pushed into current Wales. And those Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, started calling them Welsh. it means foreigner, outsiders, people over there. While they are called Welsh, those Britons, the Welsh people, they are called themselves Cymry. It's people of the land. You see? And from the foreign country, they are British, because they're in Britain. So Jews, Hebrews, Israelites, descendants of Abraham, is quite similar situations. Okay, Hebrews. Let's have a look from the beginning. Hebrews. It actually first appeared in Genesis 14, verse 13. It says Abraham, the Hebrews, suddenly appears. What does it mean? Okay, Hebrew is a word that comes from the word other or Eber, E-B-R. It means the one that crosses over. The Eber means crossing over, like crossing over the river or crossing over the chasm or someone. So comes from that side to this side. So Hebrew means one that crosses over or crossed over from the other side. And in that time, the term Hebrew was quite commonly used to describe a foreigner, someone coming from outside of their land. Abraham didn't call himself as a Hebrew to begin with. The people of the land started calling him Hebrew, the Abraham, the Hebrew. What they're saying? Abraham, the foreigner, the guy from the other side. Hey, there's a man called Abraham, came from the foreign land. So Abraham, the foreigner. And that's what the Hebrew means. Abraham, the foreigner, Hebrew. And it means crosses over. You can read it into the spiritual meaning too if you want to. Abraham came from the foreign, the pagan land, into the promised land of God. He crossed over this spiritual chasm. Like we are. We once a Gentile, non-believer, but we crossed over into promised land in Jesus Christ. So in a way we are Hebrews. Well, so Abraham crossed over, came from the other side of the Euphrates River. Abraham, the Hebrews. Okay, so that's the Hebrews. Yeah. So his descendants are called Hebrews. That's why in the New Testament, the book of Hebrews were written to those Jewish people, the descendants of Abraham. You see? So that's been known all those years. Now, the term Israelites. Israelites means the descendants of Israel, sons of Israel, people of Israel. Who is Israel? Israel is aka Jacob, the other name of Abraham's grandson Jacob. There were stories in Genesis there, you can read it. But when Jacob wrestled with God, and God gave him new name, new identity called Israel. He had 12 sons, and from those 12 sons, the Israel's 12 tribes are established. So therefore, those people are called sons of Israel and then people of Israel. Therefore, the Israelites. Simple as that. That's Israel. Little tip, little thing. You know, Abraham, Isaac, the Abraham's son, they were not Israelites. Because they weren't the sons of Israel. They were Hebrews. Well. So, Israelites, sons of people of Israel. Yeah. So, now the term Jews, that's been commonly used in our society now, especially in the modern days. Jewish people, Judaism, Jews. Where does this come from? Even in the New Testament, when Jesus was hung on the cross, there was a plaque made by the Romans. It says King of Jews. So, where's name Jews come from? Well, the name Jew, J-E-W, actually derived from the word Judah, which is happened to be the fourth son of Jacob, and means praise. That Judah means praise, because when Judah was born, the mother praised God. Praise God, I got the son. You see? So, named Judah became Jews. So, why is it one of the tribe's name, one of the sons' name, the one of the tribe of Israel's name became such a prominent? Okay, this is what happened. After King Solomon's death, the kingdom of Israel was divided in two. Northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Northern kingdom and southern kingdom. And the northern kingdom was called Kingdom of Israel. But southern kingdom was called Kingdom of Judah, or known as Kingdom of Judah, because main territory, the biggest territory was occupied by tribe of Judah. So people naturally called, oh, that's the Kingdom of Judah. And probably they liked it, Kingdom of Praising People. Well, so that went on for a while. But 5th BC, something happened. And what happened is Assyrian Empire came from the kind of northeast. And they were vicious empire. They were warring people. They conquered the place. They're killing everybody. They came, and the northern kingdom of Israel was invaded and taken over. No more northern kingdom. And the only southern kingdom of Judah remained. So people started calling those people Kingdom of Judah, regardless of their tribal ancestry. Those people who used to be in the northern kingdom, from tribe of Asher and all, they are all also called people of Kingdom of Judah. So that's why it's called Kingdom of Judah, and that became Jews. Well, actually, the Jews, that name Judah, went in when the Roman came, and all the Greeks and Latin came, and from the Latin went into Old German, Old French, then Old English, and from Old English to current English, Jews. The term Jews came. So this is what the Jews, the name Jews came from. Okay, so came from a southern kingdom of Judah, then Jews. So in this doorway, in this teaching, in this lesson, in this conversation, I'm gonna call them Jews or Jewish people, because I think it's much more used in the current or recent histories rather than Hebrews and Israelites. So, Jews. So these are the Jewish people, the identity of it. Started from Abraham. God called Abraham, established the covenant, and God chose them as his nation, his people, and it's still going on. You see, Abrahamic covenant that God made with Abraham, it actually represents God's commitment to bless his chosen people and the rest of the world through his people. So this is who Abraham was and who Jews are. Well, before going to the second part, I'd like to go through a little bit of a historical background of Jewish people, or Jewish society. Yeah, so because it's important to understand, because history is interesting things. It's not just the independent events in a line of time, but they all related to each other. One thing happens, then next thing happens because of the one thing happened before. It's all continuation of events. So I think it's good to just go through a little bit of history of these Jewish nations. Okay, historical background of Jews. First of all, let's start with very beginning of it. I'm going to be quite brief in this one, okay? Because you can read that in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament, okay? That God established the covenant with Abraham. That we all know now, yeah? Next, the Israelites Jewish people, but then called Israelites then. Israelites was slaves in Egypt. Yeah. You can read it in the book of Exodus. And while in Egypt, God used Moses to get them out of the situation into the land of free, land of promise. You can read that in Exodus as well. Great. Or you can watch Ten Commandments, long film, nice. Charlton Heston, good old days. Anyway, so Israelites, slaves in Egypt, came out of Egypt under Moses' leadership. And after that, God chose Israel as his chosen nation. You see, they made them holy. Do you remember I did a session about holiness? God made them special. See, specially chosen people. And after a lot of things happened, wandering in a wilderness for 40 years, then Israelites finally, eventually entered into the promised land God gave them, namely land of Canaan. You can read it in the book of Joshua. A lot of things again happened, conquering wars and battles and lots of things, exciting things. Now, in the promised land, they start living and entering into time of judges. If you're interested, I've done sessions a little while ago. Please go and watch that one. Exciting, brilliant stories of superheroes, like Avengers of God's Kingdom. Wow. Well, anyway, so after the book time of Judges, it comes time of kings. King David, King Solomon, and Hezekiah, and all sorts of things going on, just like a Game of Thrones. Here we go, and you can read that in the Bible. And this time of kings went on a little while, but it didn't last long. It came a time of invasion of exile. Land of Israel were invaded by rising empires like Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians. Well, they eventually, their kingdom, of Israel, they are just swallowed up by all those empires. But if you know the history, you know those Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, they didn't last long either. And this is the end of the New Testament. And Bible somehow kept it quiet for a period of 400 years. In Jewish society, there are historical books there, like a book of Maccabees and all sorts. But Bible we use as a Christians, between the Old Testament and New Testament, there's a silence. Some people call it 400 years of silence. And some of you might wonder, what happened those 400 years? I give you very, very brief historical recap of this one. This 400 years after the Persian Empire, what happened was that guy from Macedonia, which is in Greek, raised up, called Alexander the Great. Alexander, he was like about 28 years old. He was a genius in war, great warriors and that kind of thing. And then he actually conquered a lot of Europe, Middle East, and then going as far as India. You know, he was recognized or reckoned one of the greatest war leader of the history, along with Napoleon and that kind of things. But anyway, he was a Greek, came up, and then he conquered Egypt, and he also conquered land of Philistine, where the Israelites are. Yeah, and basically took over the Persians and became a Greek empire. But as I said, the Greek empire didn't last long either, because this Alexander the Great, he died in age of around 30ish. And after that, the Greek Empire went downhill. You see? And meanwhile, around that time, under the Greek occupation, there are two stages of kind of different political atmospheres happening in Israel, land of Israel. First stage was Jewish friendly. The Greek occupation was very friendly to Jews, very tolerant of Jewish ways. So they lived pretty happily under the Greek control. But second regime took over the first regime of the Greek occupation. Then they are not very friendly to Jews, mainly because the Greek religious system, the belief, are totally different from Jews, and they wanted to try to get rid of the Jews. So there a big conflict went on, and Jews revolted against Greek occupation many times. And one of the famous ones called Maccabean Revolt. Maccabean. And actually, the revolt went successfully, and Jews had brief moment of independence. You see? And they thought, oh, this will be great. We can be independent again. Then what happened? Greek Empire gradually declined. And next thing came up with the Romans. The Roman Empire came. And this Roman Empire took over the Greeks and started occupying the land of Palestine, where the Jews lived. You see, they thought they're going to be independent Jewish country again. No, the Romans came. And this is just about starting the New Testament, you see. And then one of the Romans' way to occupy the land, the foreign land, is to choose someone they can control from this native land and make them into the king or governor and let them rule the place. See? So basically, they wanted to use a puppet so that there'll be less conflict between the native people and Rome. So Romans chose Jewish leaders such as Herod, the famous one. You can read it in the Bible. And started occupying the Rome, occupying Israel, the Jewish land. Meanwhile, in the Jewish society under the Roman occupation, there are two factions came up called Pharisees and Sadducees. Who are they? They were high priests, group of high priests in the society, very rich, high class, and respected in the society. And what happened is after the Maccabean revolt, the Jewish leader became corrupt. So all those high society people, the high priests and all those people, some of them started go against all those rulers and then said go back to the Bible, go to their law and scriptures and etc. etc. So and there was of course the political agenda behind it too. But so they went against all those rulers and they were called Pharisees and made a group and then had a great power in the society. But on the other hand, there are the group of people supporting those Maccabean rulers and leaders from that time. So those people are called Sadducees and became an opposition to the Pharisees. So it is a bit like two political parties, Pharisee party and Sadducees parties. And they were in such a great conflict. You see, they don't like each other. And they trying to get overpowered each other, you see. But here comes that the time they started working together. What happened? Jesus happened. You can read that in the Bible. Suddenly, this man came up, son of the carpenter from Galilee. He came up and causing a lot of commotion, especially in the spiritual, the religious realm the circles. So Sadducees, Pharisees started uh, holding their hand together, go against Jesus, you see. So that's the kind of political background. And you can see this under Roman occupation, what's happening. You can actually read that in the New Testament. So if you're interested, please read the Gospels, Acts, and Epistles, and you can find out what's going on and under Roman occupation. Well, so that's in Old Testament time and New Testament time. So what happened after that? That's also interesting. That's kind of started relating to us, people in outside of Middle East, people in Europe, Asia, America, Africa. You see, this is what happened. After New Testament, after the stories we can read in the book of Acts, this is what happened. Around 70 AD till about 135 AD, some of the Jews started to revolt against Roman occupations called Jewish-Roman Wars. There are a few times it happened, and eventually what happened is the Jews were overpowered by Rome because Romans were too big for Jews. So this Jewish-Roman War, 135, the last one happened, that the Roman Empire totally overpowered and subdued those Jewish revolt. At that point, Jews are scattered into all over the world. They escaped, ran away from their land in Philistine, then went all over the world to Asia, Africa, and Europe, all those places. And that number was something like 16 million Jews scattered from that Rome in Roman time. And they started living as foreigners in different countries. And time went on and went on and went on. But always they were treated as a foreigner. Interesting, isn't it? At the beginning, Abraham was called Hebrews, the foreigner. Descendants of Abraham, thousands of years later, in the foreign land, they are called foreigners and outsiders, strangers. And especially in Europe of that time, we're gonna kind of go into more focus on the European land. Now, in Europe, the main source of income, the living, was made on the produce of the land. For example, the all those farming land is very important, woods and etc. And that land is very important for the people. In other words, those people who do not own the land, like strangers and wanderers, they were looked as very low in a society. All those wanderers, someone like all those birds, people who travel around and sings, and those people are very looked so as very low status people because they don't have a land. So Jewish people scattered all over the Europe and went to the place, look for the land, but they can't have it because they are already occupied by the people, the native people there. So how are they gonna make a living out of it? There's no land for me, for them to cultivate, to make a living. So naturally, there are very limited options for them. And one of their options is they became something the natives cannot do, like skilled work, that new skills, special skills like scholars. Imagine, Jewish people are very scholared people and very educated people as a society. their literacy rate is much, much higher than European people at that time. Like when a Jewish society, when a child becomes like 4, 5, they start teaching the scriptures. And when a bar mitzvah comes in a 12, 13, they have to recite the scripture and they have to commentate on it. So they taught them how to read and write, that kind of things. So as a society, they are very academic, the educated societies. So that's why many people, the Jewish people, became scholars and doctors, lawyers, that kind of thing, skilled workers. They were good at crafting things as well. You can read that in the Bible, craft things. But anyway, so that's one of the things. But the major trade, the occupation they can have was something related to money. Therefore, the money lenders. Why is it? I tell you, at that time, when Europe, after Roman time, European became Christian societies, this Roman Catholic, the Christian teaching came. With that, those moral standards, according to those Christian teaching, was spread all over the Europe. And one of them is that any trade to do with money, such as money lenders, that kind of things, were considered unrighteous in the Catholic Christian teaching of that time. So nobody wants to do it. Native people don't want to do it, but it's necessary in a society. So there is a necessary things there, but nobody wants to do. What happened? And then Jews came. What happened? Well, there's a gap in a society. In the Jewish teachings and traditions, the money lending is not considered as unrighteous. See, so they can do it. So they started doing money matters in a society. So basically lending the money, and then when they return, they get a profit. They get the interest, and that becomes their profit. You see, so many of them became money lenders, and money lenders, they make money, as you know. And those foreign people came into the land, and the native people said, "Oh, I need the money to start this, start that, etc., etc." Borrow the money, and then when they return the money, pay back the money, have to pay the interest. How come those guys came from outside, becoming rich, and we are not? You see, all those things happening, the bad feeling towards Jews because of this. Then Jews became very unpopular in society, but native people cannot get rid of them because they need them to do the money matters. So that went on and on and on, and that's vicious circle. Unpopularity of the Jews were cultivated through the years and became even more outsider in the society, and often they were persecuted. In medieval time, not all people are rich and happy. You see, a lot of discontent, sad things, hard time, the hardship, a lot of things going on. They needed to vent out their negative emotions and everything, frustrations. And then they saw this minority immigrant from outside doing things which they think it's unrighteous, but becoming prosperous. Well, natural human thing, isn't it, that they vent out the hatred and the frustration on them. So that's why they were persecuted. You see, nobody likes outsiders' success. So unfortunately, Jews lost their land, scattered all over the place, all over the world, and then treated as scum of the society, rather, in a way. Very sad, very unfair. And then that kind of thing happens, not only Jews, but a lot of societies everywhere in the world. And that's so sad. But that's what happened, you know. But there are people who valued them. And those who valued them, God started blessing. And we're gonna have a look at that in the second part. So, Jews, Abrahamic covenant, and the world. How are they gonna mix together? How are they affecting each other? And how did God work through all those situations, the people? It will be interesting. You will see how God blesses those nations, and those who curses them, how God cursed them. We can see all those things in next part. Well, thank you very much. Come next part. It comes in a few days, and you'll be amazed. Be blessed.